In the near future, eugenics rules society, and most people are perfectly engineered in labs. Everyone is registered in a genetic database. Those created in labs are classified as valids, while those conceived naturally are known as invalids because they're more susceptible to genetic disorders, from illnesses to baldness. Genetic discrimination is technically illegal, but employers still take urine tests or even analyze saliva from the resume envelope, resulting in genotype profiling. This means invalids are always relegated to menial jobs. At his apartment, Vincent meticulously shaves and scrubs himself until his body is spotless, then burns any hairs and dead skin that could have fallen. He takes a urine bag from the fridge and connects it to his groin to pass it off as his own, and puts a bit of blood inside a fake fingertip, which he carefully attaches to his finger. Vincent goes to work at the Gattaca Aerospace Corporation, where every employee must prick their finger for an identity check to be allowed in. Vincent lets the machine take blood from his fake fingertip. At his desk, he works on a computer, running various space flight plans, frequently using a device to clean all DNA traces from his keyboard. The mission director visits and shows respect for Vincent's cleanliness, confirming he's been chosen for the flight to Saturn's moon Titan in a week. After the director leaves, Vincent secretly sprinkles skin, hair, and nails around his workstation, placing a hair on the comb in his desk drawer. Later, Vincent undergoes a substance test to check his cleanliness before the mission. Using the hidden bag, he offers the urine sample, and when the doctor checks it, the result reads Jerome, confirming he's a valid. After work, Vincent watches another aircraft leaving Earth, and his co-worker Irene congratulates him on getting the mission, noting he's the only employee who watches every launch every day. A flashback reveals Vincent's early life. His parents had a quickie on the beach, and his mother accidentally got pregnant, making Vincent naturally conceived, already rare back then. As soon as he was born, doctors took a blood sample and concluded he had a high chance of many conditions. So, his life expectancy was 30 years. Vincent's childhood was difficult because his mother treated every runny nose or scratch as a fatal threat. No school would accept Vincent because insurance wouldn't cover any issues related to his bad genes. Eventually, his parents decided to have a second child and went to a genetic lab to do things by the book. Anton had no conditions at all and was happy to spend time with his brother. But Vincent could tell his parents had a favorite. Whenever their parents weren't looking, the brothers would play chicken in the sea, competing to see who could swim the farthest from shore before turning back. Anton always defeated Vincent, adding to his inferiority complex. As Vincent grew up, he became interested in space and dreamed of becoming an astronaut. His parents warned him nobody would hire him because of his genes, but he didn't listen and went to a few interviews. To his dismay, nobody hired him, just as his parents had guessed. One afternoon, the brothers went for another swim, and to Anton's shock, Vincent defeated him. In fact, Vincent had to go back and help a tired Anton return to shore. That was the last time they swam together because, that evening, Vincent left home to pursue his dreams. Eventually, Vincent got a job at Gattaca as a janitor. As he cleaned the offices, he sometimes used the computer when nobody was watching and admired the daily launches. He also learned about the blood prick done on the same finger every day and stole a small sensor from a machine. Vincent never stopped dreaming, despite the head janitor mocking him. In his apartment, Vincent never stopped exercising, which took a toll on his body. Desperate for progress, he eventually contacted a man in the black market who introduced him to the real Jerome, a former swimming star with great IQ and perfect health except for his legs. Jerome was paralyzed after being hit by a car and became wheelchair-bound. The incident happened overseas and wasn't recorded, so nobody knew Jerome had become an invalid. Vincent paid both men to obtain Jerome's identity, starting a long transformation process. He got contact lenses to replace his glasses and match Jerome's eye color, and he also cut and styled his hair like Jerome's. ID pictures weren't an issue because everything depended on DNA now. The last hurdle was that Jerome was taller than Vincent, so Vincent reluctantly underwent a painful procedure that broke and extended his legs until their heights matched. Vincent moved into Jerome's apartment to have his address, and during the first few days, he had to rest and recover from the procedure, often in pain. During this time, Vincent learned Jerome's signature and how to write with his other hand while Jerome continued filling bags with urine and blood. One day, Jerome showed Vincent a silver medal to remind him of the high standard he had to live up to. Jerome also told Vincent to call him by his middle name, Eugene, so Vincent could get used to being called Jerome. When Vincent's interview day finally came, He tested a urine bag on the machine, which gave an error message because the urine contained alcohol. Vincent yelled at Jerome for the consequences of his addiction, and after testing several bags, he found the last one was clean and took it with him. At the office, the doctor ran the test, and the machine confirmed Vincent was Jerome, a valid. They didn't send him to an actual interview. He was instantly hired for his IQ. From then on, Vincent had to scrub his body thoroughly every day to get rid of loose skin, nails, and hair, which he burned in an incinerator. All his clothes were kept in sealed bags to avoid contamination. While working, Vincent spread Jerem's samples on his desk to maintain the illusion and used the fake fingertip with Jerem's blood to pass the identity check at the door. Nobody ever suspected anything. Back in the present, everyone at Gattaca is panicking because the company administrator has been murdered with a keyboard. Jerome scratches his eye while staring at the gruesome scene and doesn't notice that an eyelash falls off. The cops soon arrive to collect every single trail of DNA from the crime scene, including the eyelash. The boss instructs Irene to assist the police in any way they need. The mission isn't cancelled, and Vincent will still be going to space. When he shares the news with Jerome, they decide to go out to celebrate. They drink a lot and even do tricks with smoke inside their glasses. At the office, Irene takes the hair from Vincent's drawer to a matchmaking service, where tests reveal that Vincent is quite a catch. By the end of the night, Jerome is so drunk that Vincent has to help him to bed. Suddenly, Jerome makes a confession. He hadn't been drunk during the car crash, and it hadn't been an accident. He had actually been trying to kill himself. The next morning, the police forensic department tests all the samples and discovers a mysterious invalid had been in Gattaca, making him the prime suspect. Back to Vincent. He puts the little sensor he stole back in his janitor days on Jerem's chest to record 20 minutes of his pulse as he wheels his chair extra hard to simulate exercise. Later at Gattaca, Vincent is put on a running test and replaces the office sensor with the one he brought from home. Meanwhile, the detectives investigate the invalid profile from the eyelash and discover it belongs to a janitor who disappeared a few years ago. They come to the office to ask questions, and Vincent overhears them, making him nervous. To make matters worse, the 20-minute recording ends, and Vincent's real pulse appears, which is rather high. He immediately rushes to the locker room and collapses as he tries to catch his breath. After work, Irene meets with Vincent and admits she read his DNA sequence, which was actually Jerem's. She's impressed by how perfect he is and feels inferior, admitting she's a lab baby but still has a likelihood of heart failure, meaning she'll never be allowed to join a mission. When Vincent says he doesn't see anything wrong with her, Irene hands him a lock of her hair, encouraging him to test it to discover her genetic flaws. But Vincent tosses it away, claiming the wind blew it. Sometime later, Vincent is working at the computer when suddenly all the employees receive the profile of invalid from the eyelash because he's a wanted man. Thankfully, nobody recognizes him, but Vincent is still afraid. When he gets home, he tells Jerome that he's the prime suspect and starts throwing away all the blood and urine bags. Jerome immediately stops him, reminding him that they would never look at Vincent and see an invalid. That night, Vincent decides to go out because it would be suspicious if he changed his routine. When Jerome looks out the window, he sees Irene has come to pick Vincent up. Moments later, Vincent and Irene attend a piano concert for their first date. After the concert, the pianist throws his glove into the audience, and Vincent realizes he has 12 fingers. Irene explains that such a complex piece of music could only be played by those hands. Meanwhile, the detectives are rounding up invalids from the neighborhood to find the murderer, but none of their DNA matches the eyelash. They decide to investigate all the buildings surrounding Gattaca and arrive at Jerem's apartment, so he gets a blood test too. The detective is surprised a wheelchair-bound man could be working at Gattaca, so Jerome pretends to be offended and yells at him, claiming he just got hurt during training and accusing the detective of discrimination. Not wanting trouble, the detective leaves. At Gattaca, some officers take away all the trash bags. On their way home, Irene and Vincent find the road blocked by the cops, who are inspecting everyone in the area. Vincent immediately removes his contacts and avoids a spit test by saying he's been drinking. The cops take a blood sample instead, and his fake fingertip tricks them as always. After they pass the check, Irene announces she wants to show Vincent something and stops the car a few miles ahead. She quickly crosses the street, dodging incoming cars, but Vincent hesitates because he can't see well without his contacts. After much doubt, he runs in and thankfully avoids getting hit. Then, Irene takes him to watch the sunrise at the solar panel center, creating a beautiful light effect that Vincent sees rather blurry. On their way out, Irene notices Vincent's eyes look different, and he blames it on a trick of the light. Sometime later, the detectives discover a cup from the office trash has the same DNA as the eyelash. They theorize the invalid may be working in disguise and killed the administrator because he found out the truth. To be sure, they go to Gattaca and announce they're taking blood samples directly from the vein instead of the fingertip. When it's Vincent's turn, he pretends the doctor has hurt him with a needle and jumps out of the seat, quickly swapping his blood sample with Jerem's. The detectives run the tests again, and no match is found. That night, Vincent and Irene go on a second date. Their sweet dancing is interrupted by the cops, who start collecting all sorts of DNA samples like napkins and cigarette butts. They want to test people too, so Vincent immediately escapes, with Irene through the back door. A cop tries to stop them, but Vincent knocks him out. As Irene gets scared and calls him insane, Vincent drags her away to escape through some dark alleys. When the other cops find their partner on the ground, they start looking for the couple, who hide in an alley. One of the detectives yells the name Vincent, and Irene asks who that is, but Vincent answers by kissing her. Moments later, the couple is at Irene's apartment having their first time together. In the morning, Vincent finds a hair on the pillow, so he rushes to the beach and uses sand and rocks to scrub the excess skin from his body. When he returns, Irene asks him about his leg scars, and Vincent says they were from a car accident. Meanwhile, the detectives are comparing Jerem's profile to Vincent's and decide more testing is needed. They return to Gattaca and take the keys from Vincent's keyboard while asking about him, still using Jerem's name. Irene overhears this and immediately warns Vincent, saying he looks sick and should go home. Vincent understands she's talking in code and leaves the building while Irene tells the detective that Vincent went home because he was ill. This doesn't stop the detective, who asks Irene to take him to Jerem's home. At the same time, Vincent calls Jerome and tells him to be himself because the police are coming. Jerome drops the wheelchair and starts dragging himself up the stairs to the main floor. It takes him a while, but he reaches the buzzer just in time to let Irene and the detective in. Then Jerome drags his body to the chair and arranges his legs to look natural. When the duo arrives, Jerome plays his part and asks Irene for a kiss, which she gives to maintain the lie. The detective takes a blood sample and is frustrated to confirm this is indeed Jerome. He then tries to go downstairs, where Vincent and the lab are hiding, but gets a call from his partner saying they've captured the murderer, so the detective leaves. Afterward, Vincent emerges, and Irene sees him next to Jerome as they call each other by that name. Hurt, she rushes out, but Vincent follows her, explaining his situation and swearing he didn't kill anyone. Irene is still wary and leaves. At the police station, it's revealed that the director's spit was found in the victim's eye, confirming he's the killer. The administrator had threatened to cancel the Titan mission, so the director killed him to achieve his dream. Sometime later, Vincent returns to his desk and finds the detective there, who suddenly drops a big reveal. He's Vincent's brother, Anton. They hadn't recognized each other at first because they hadn't seen each other in 13 years, but Anton started to piece the clues together during the investigation. Anton accuses Vincent of fraud and wants to arrest him, leading to an argument. Vincent thinks Anton wants to see him fail and reminds him who won their last race, prompting Anton to challenge him again. By nightfall, the brothers are at the beach. They quickly jump into the water and start swimming, going so far that they lose sight of the shore. Anton worries they're pushing their limits, but Vincent calls him a coward, so they keep going. However, Anton starts feeling fatigued and mentions it again. Vincent finally reveals how he does it. He never saves energy for the return. Frustrated, Anton turns back but starts drowning, so Vincent swims back and grabs him, helping him to the shore. A few hours later, Vincent visits Irene and offers a strand of his hair. Irene throws it away, saying the wind did it. They spend the night together at her place as a goodbye since Vincent will be gone on his mission for a year. The next morning, Vincent returns to his apartment and finds the lab covered in plastic. Jerome reveals he has prepared enough sample bags to last Vincent 2 lifetimes, implying he won't be around when Vincent returns. When Vincent asks where he's going, Jerome simply says, "I'm traveling to." Jerome also hands Vincent a card, telling him not to open it until he's in space. Afterward, Vincent goes to Gattaca to get ready for his mission. The doctor informs him that there's been a policy change, so a new urine sample is needed. Vincent hadn't expected this and didn't bring Jerem's bag, so he starts peeing in a cup, lamenting the loss of his dream. However, the doctor reveals he's always known and never said anything because he also has an invalid kid and thinks Vincent deserves better. The machine offers the wrong profile, but the doctor changes it to Jerome's and lets Vincent pass. Before he leaves, the doctor tells him he knew because Vincent always grabbed his member with the wrong hand. At the apartment, Jerome grabs his silver medal and enters the incinerator, ending his life at the same time Vincent gets on the spaceship and leaves the planet. Once Vincent is far enough, he opens Jerome's card and discovers a large lock of his hair. Now, Jerome has technically visited space as well. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.